Hi there. I'm going to talk today a little bit about how and why we track productivity with TradeUp. Now, we know that when we have a job, most of the time the labor budget or the blowout of the labor budget or the really great work on the labor budget is what creates profit or loses money for us on a job. So, I want to talk a little bit about how do we actually create a labor budget and then how do we get our site team to track themselves to make sure that they're working productively enough to hit that labor budget for you. So this is a really small job I'm going to look at first, and then I'll show you a bigger job example. So this job here has 120 square meters of common brick in it. We've given our guys a productivity target of 4.5 meters squared per man per day for brickwork. And now we know from that that's going to take 26.67 man days. And TradeUp uses 8 hours in a man day to calculate this. So how does that 26.67 man days actually equal into a labor budget? So if we have a look over here in TradeUp, we can have a look at this other resource table here, and that tells us that if we're going to install 120 meters squared of brickwork, it's going to take us 26 days, 26.67 days, with a productivity target on that material of 4.5 meters squared per man per day, with our break-even employment rate that TradeUp has worked out for us in our company. And I can talk a little bit more about how we get to that employment rate in TradeUp in another video. That gives us a total labor cost here of $11,779.73. Now, how can we let our guys track what that is on site without telling them exactly what this dollar figure is? And there's a reason why we don't want to tell them about that dollar figure. It's because sometimes it distracts the guys about what they're actually working towards. And also, the dollar figure is irrelevant. It doesn't matter if it's $11,000 or $11 million for the labor budget, we still need them to hit it. So, how can we actually set them this target and give them the opportunity to give us a score every day so we know how everyone's tracking? So, if we look over at this same job, the house one that we were just looking at a second ago, with the labor productivity daily target of 4.5 meters squared per man per day, what we see is the guys can actually come in here each day. They can enter their timesheets in here. So they'll come along, they'll enter how many guys worked today and create a total amount of time that they've used. And then they'll flick over and enter what did they actually install today. So today, 100% of the time was used to install 9 meters squared of brickwork. And so that gives them today, actually, their score was only 3 meters squared per man per day instead of 4.5. But when they come back out to the summary here, what they can see is over time, the target is the blue line here. Each of these individual pillars are their days, and they can see that their average is way above the line. So they've actually smashed it in on their labor budget here. Now you can see that they had some really good days when they were first there doing all the straight walls. Then they had some days which weren't as great. And then when they were just finishing off at the end, they had a not so great day. So their average was really high. It tapered back down, but that was fine because it was still above the target. So even on the days when they probably didn't feel as though they did as well on site, it still translated into giving them the target that they needed overall on the job. Now, at the top here, by using TradeUp, the foreman on site can see some really good stats. Some things like he had 26 days to start with, he's used 17 days of those, so he's used 66% of his labour, he's 75% complete on the job, so that's great. It means he's 14% above his target. He can see the actual score right there if he wants to. He can see how many work days he's got left to do the job, how many people he's been having on site every day so far, and how many he needs to finish the job. So he knows he's going to go just perfectly right there if he keeps going. And you can look down here on his burn down graph and see that if he keeps going, he's going to finish the job right on time. So that's fabulous. Now, how does this translate into a bigger job that we might be doing as a trade contractor? So if we look over here, we can see a bigger job that we've got here. It's got a whole lot of other different materials in it that we need to install. We've got a quantity for each of those materials. We've got a productivity target for each of those materials. And now that tells us how many man days is it going to take us to install each of those materials, a cost per unit for labor for each of them, and then a total labor cost for that whole job. And you can see this one's more up around the $500,000 mark, $473,000 for labor. And so when we're tracking that job, or giving the foreman the opportunity to track this job here, what we can see is along the way, this job here started off quite close to the target, and then he's gone up a little bit, and he's tracking along really well now. And you can come in here and you can see that he's got 59. The issue on this job, though, which we can see, and it's very interesting and why it's great to use TradeUp, is because on this job, his target is 7.1 meters squared per man per day. He's actually smashing it on his productivity, so that's great. We're doing really, really well there. He's 28% complete on the job. He's only used 17% of his labor, so that's awesome. But the problem here is he's got 59 work days to go. We've only been having 4.3 guys on site every day. And actually, TradeUp's telling us if we want to get this job done on time, if we want to finish it by the 25th of April this year, we actually need 13.8 people on site every day. And so if we look down the bottom here at our burn down graph, even though our productivity average is really high here, and that's great, we don't have enough people on site. And so this job isn't going to finish on time. And so that's the type of information that you can get from measuring your progress and productivity from TradeUp. Now, something on this one, I wanted to show you just how easy it is, even on a bigger job like this, when you've got so many materials to install. It's exactly the same concept where the chap's going to come in every day. He's going to enter his timesheets of what the guys did. He's going to put that time in his productive time, and now pop over here to his productivity page and come down here and just enter. Well, in this instance, 50% of the time was spent on each of these items, saw cutting and natural grey block, and he just puts his count in and does that every day, and that's how easy it is to track his progress and productivity on TradeUp.